Good evening, loves, and welcome to excuse me. Yes, it is Tasty Tuesday. Good evening, loves, and welcome to Just Talk to Me. Lavina, Poetic, Empress, coming at you with Dr. Caro. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me because I had some technical difficulties. I couldn't log in. Well, I couldn't go live. I don't know what the deal is. So I hope my guest is still in the building and that he will come on in. Oh, yes, he is. Hello, Dr. Carol. I just sent you an invite to come in the room. Please accept so we can get this party started because I know we're in different time zones. And wait a minute. He's in here, but Dr. Carol, your screen is dark.
Yeah, it's a little dark here. Sorry, I'm having issues with my electricity here.
Oh, you want to log out and try to log back in? I know it because I was a few minutes late because the internet, like I couldn't even go live. And now you're spinning. So you want to log out and go out and then come back in?
Okay,
Oh, wait. Okay,
yeah,
there's a light. Well, there was light.
yeah.
Okay. That's better. That's better. Now you're going to be able to hold it still?
Yes, I'm going to be able to. I'm going to be able to.
Well, Dr. Carol, welcome to Just Talk to Me. Lavina, Poetic, Empress. How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing very fine. I'm doing very
Okay.
fine. Just
Can
glad to
you,
be here.
before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I am Dr. Caro. From Nigeria. I'm a natural healer. I also practice Western medicine, but I
Mhm,
try to teach more about how the human mind works, try
mhm,
to understand the self, knowing more about the self, and try to understand the purpose of life, humanity, um, you know, why we are here, knowing
mhm.
ourselves better, knowing how we can make life more better,
Right.
understand the purpose of all our activities here on the planet. So,
Mhm. That I love that because I guess, oh my goodness, I don't know like how many years ago it was when I call it waking up. Um,
mm,
you start to realize uh, that something that I've been taught just isn't right.
of
Um,
course,
and you begin to question things. And
sure.
of course, you run into people. No, don't ask questions because that's the one major thing they tell you. Especially, I
Mm,
grew up in church, a Christian.
yes.
Don't question God.
Mm,
When there's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Come, let us reason together," which means
yes.
question me, ask me anything. You know.
Exactly.
So, um, so like I said, one day I have to sit down and think about exactly when, like, I literally was like, okay, that's it. I need to, you know, go on about, and find out more on this journey of
Yeah.
life and what is true and what is, a lie. I must tell you that um, as far as
Hello?
the,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm with
Okay,
you.
okay. Um, I can tell you that um, the I was shocked into a truth about the religion part.
Mm,
And then when I was told this truth, the people, the two people who told me, just left me to find answers for myself. So that is one thing I don't want to do to other people is, give them information and then just leave them, wondering, well, okay, well, what do I do now? You know.
mm,
But tonight, because this show is about always choosing to love yourself more, and in
yeah.
choosing to love ourselves more, it's not just about finding ourselves in a uh, situation with our loved ones or with friends where it's not working out, so we have to choose to let that person go or step away from that person. It's also loving ourselves enough to uh, evaluate our health,
Mm,
evaluate our mental state, our spiritual
exactly.
state, and things of that nature.
Exactly.
Um, so before we get into that, please share with us why um, you take the holistic approach to help people.
Um, you know, having like from what you've said, getting to talking about the awakening and the sequences of awakening that happens in a human being, by default, the human being is an animal, The human being is no different from any other organism that is living out there in creation. So it needs to understand itself. It has to know itself. But over the course of our evolution, I have realized that by default we don't really know ourselves, but it takes time, it takes events, it takes cycles for us to get to a point where we begin to understand and know
Right.
ourselves. That is why, from this perspective, it now helps me to understand that healing as a process has to go through the various dimensions of the human nature. The human being has its mind. The mind is a product of the brain. The brain is an organ in the body, just like the kidneys, the liver, the heart. The liver produces chemicals in the body, and it helps to has so many functions. Also, some of the chemicals it produces, like bile, it produces enzymes. Bile helps to digest the fats and oil we take in. The
Mm-hmm.
brain also produces the mind. The mind is a product of the brain, and the heart also produces the soul. So the soul, which is the total nature, the feeling, the feeling of the organism, the human being. So, you know, having understand the nature of the human being, I have come to understand that for there to be complete healing, for there to be holistic healing, you have to approach the human being from all the dimension that it exists in. The
Mm-hmm.
mental life, which is also talking about the brain, the mind. What is the mind, and how does this mind function?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding the nature of the mind and how it functions, understanding the heart and the nature of the soul. So,
Right.
because if we have come to understand that life is it's mental, what
Mm-hmm.
we see, what we hear are simply electrical signals interpreted by our brain. So, what is really real goes beyond what we can see, what we can touch, and what we can smell.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for there to be complete healing, you have to start from the fundamental level, or the mental level, or the electronic level of the human being.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in Western practice of medicine, where we focus only on healing on the body, although there is psychiatry and psychology, which are areas of study in Western medicine that deals with the psyche, the human mind, though
Mm-hmm.
it's still a novel area, and Western science is still exploring this area. Good thing, psychology is breaking a whole lot of grounds.
Mm-hmm.
Psychiatry also breaking a whole lot of grounds to help us understand the mental nature of diseases, or in quotes, the spiritual nature of diseases. So,
Right.
you know, having understand that the mind controls the body, or as some people will say, the spiritual controls the physical.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps you now to now focus on, the mental aspect more of life. Like if you can heal the mind, the body can follow suit because the mind controls the body. So this is why I tend to take a direct approach when it comes to healing. First of all, you try to fix the mind, you try to fix the soul. And when all this, you fix the mind, you fix the soul, the individual is brought into the process of harmony, equilibrium, which is setting. And by the time you bring in the physical form of healing, which involves maybe giving medication, replacing what is lost, what is causing disharmony in the system, over time, the individual is able to come to a state of equilibrium because what really happens when we are sick in quote is that we are not in a state of balance.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in creation strive towards balance. We are all striving to be in a state of harmony. So
Right.
the whole process of healing aims at restoring the organism back into a state of balance, a state of harmony, physically, mentally, emotionally. So this is why I focus on the holistic healing. So if you just, as you rightly said, we talk about religion, we talk about awakening, the mind, the individual getting to know him or herself, that is
Mm-hmm.
the first step when it comes to healing. You have to make the individual recognize or understand what it is, what it's, if you don't know what or who you are, it becomes more difficult, for there to be healing, total healing of the self. So I think this is why I always tend to approach this way. And the mind requires information for it to heal itself.
Right.
During the process of awakening, the awakening has to be guided. Now,
Mm-hmm.
being guided is that the mind has to guide its own self, and the way it guides itself is that it begins to source for information, the
Mm-hmm.
right kind of information to nourish it, to make it grow. Just the same way the body requires food, the body requires air, the body requires water for it to grow and develop. That is how the mind, upon awakening, requires information, requires knowledge for it to grow. So with all this knowledge, it begins to, grow faster. And with this knowledge, it's able to set the body into a new part of healing, a new part of balance. So the individuals on its own begin to seek for uh, its own balance. So in my own case, when I meet individuals who come to me for healing or who seek healing, so I try to first of all see and understand the state of awakening of the mind, the level of awakening of the mind, and see how information can be given to the mind so that it's able to heal itself, it's able to initiate the sequences and be in a process of self healing, which is part of the whole awakening and expansion of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. With what you're saying, because I listened to, um, oh my goodness, forgive me because his name escapes me. But years ago, I listened to this doctor, and he said that the cells in our body are intelligent. He said, so
Yeah.
speak to them, yes, and remind them of the healing, of the health that we came into this world with.
Mm.
Um, and it's something that I listened to these series of, you know, DVDs
Yeah.
because years later, and I've always talk about that kind of stuff. Well, years later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and immediately those teachings came back to my
Mm.
remembrance. And I thank God for it because I would speak to my body. I speak especially to my breast where um, the surgery and whatnot took place, and
Yeah.
where I had to get the radiation treatments and stuff. And I would tell myself, I love you, body, thank you, and things of that nature. And the radiologist, she said she was so um, intrigued by me, and she just, it's like she fell in love with me because she was looking at how I was processing quickly through the situation, and my body was healing
Yeah.
quick, and I didn't
Mm,
scar like a lot of people do when they have the radiation treatments and things of that nature. And then with my mental state, she was really happy because I was expressing exactly how I felt in
mm,
those moments when things were occurring. And she was like, "Oh my gosh," she's like, "that is the one of the best things you can do in those situations," she said, because a lot of women wait until they get through the whole uh, physical process, the surgeries, the radiation, or if it's chemo and things of that nature, and then they try to heal the mind. But
mm.
it's the mind that has to heal during the process and first,
True.
so it can speak to the body and relay to it what it's to do.
True.
So that's awesome. That you're taking this approach. And I also read about it was a time when there were a lot of healers. There were a lot of holistic healers. There were schools. There were
True.
places where people would go and either
Yeah.
learn and to go and they would be healed
Yeah.
until pharmaceuticals came into play. And
Mm,
then they got rid of shut down all the schools and places people could go, got rid of all the healers and things of that nature. I've even spoken to someone who said that she would not, go on, live or tell people that she was a healer because she was scared, for her life. And that
mm,
is sad, that stuff like that has gone on, Um, it's but I think that we need to tell people and whatnot. And it's not a thing to say, oh, go, hurt these people because they did this. No, it's just get a better approach because when you take medication, it always has a side effect. So you
of
might get
course it
rid of
does.
this, but it's going to bring about something else.
Of
So
course.
it's just a thing as to where people have another option because even the
Mm,
Bible says, and I talk about the Bible a lot because it's universal. People know they've
mm,
read or heard scriptures from the Bible.
yeah.
But oh goodness, now I lost that train of thought of what I wanted to say. But um, you know, we have to. There's always another way. You know,
Mm,
um, there's endless possibilities.
that is
Um,
true.
and I'm going to even go as far as to say, when people, because now people talk about multi universes, I'm like, those are
Mm,
possibilities. That's all that is. I'm like,
mm,
this is it, dearie. I mean, as far as you're not going to travel to another Earth, and you can travel right here. You can make up in your mind, I want to be
yeah.
better, and
True.
that's your boom. Your universe right here will change. You know.
Mm.
Um, can you share with us some of the ways that we can take better care of our bodies and what preventive measures we can take?
Um, you know, just as we are, I would say, the earth that we live in, it's a living thing on its own. This
Mm-hmm.
earth, this planet, it's a living organism on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And we human beings are like cells, special cells in this earth. And you know, we are at a point in history where we believe that most diseases are caused by germs, bacteria, viruses, fungi, other parasites, and also we have the mutational causes of disease, which could be like the cancers, the tumors, which could be triggered by maybe environmental agents or chemical environmental agent, which could be chemical. And also there is a genetic aspect where we believe maybe there may be a defect in a particular gene or a particular protein is missing or deleted in our coding sequence in our DNA or any of the other regions in the DNA. Now, by default, now, have you ever wondered like the animals? We are all animals, but I use the word animals to refer to all living things that have animation. The wild ones, the animals living in the wild, when they fall sick, they don't go to the hospital. And why is it that this same bacteria, these viruses, or these same carcinogens do not cause these diseases in these animals that live in the wild? Not that it happens. You have seen animals in the wild that do come up with some diseases, but it's not as rampant as it is in the human society, where we have all kinds of diseases that are we claim most of them as a result of our lifestyle. Maybe things like diabetes, hypertension, goiter, scleroderma, sickle cell disease, different types of diseases and their manifestation. Why do the animal man, the animal woman, suffer some of this same disease and other members of the animal kingdom don't really experience them? So it has really made me reflected a lot, and I have come to a realization that you see the reason why we actually fall sick sometimes, the reason why we suffer some of these disease conditions is because we are no longer natural. The earth does not recognize us. It's just like what happened in cancer. Good thing you have experienced cancer, you have a first-hand knowledge of it. Cancer cells we've seen are simply cells that have grown out of the control mechanism. There are genes that regulate cell growth. Now, when these genes are defective, they cannot regulate the growth of these cells. So these cells continue to replicate um, like that. So when our bodies are no longer natural as a result of maybe lifestyle or our environment, or but it actually really
Stress.
boils down to our lifestyle. The food we eat, we don't really know what we eat and why we eat how we eat. We come into this world and we see our parents eating what they eat, and they started feeding us even when we were neonates from the complementary feeding stage. After breastfeeding, we start introducing various food to us, and we don't really know if this is the kind of food we should eat. If you look at the human, the alimentary canal or the gastrointestinal tract of the human being, you will discover that humans by nature are designed to be vegetarians or herbivores. You know, if you have read this book by Charles Darwin, do you know Charles Darwin? He's a famous English biologist and a naturalist. He wrote this classical groundbreaking text in the 17th century called "The Origin of Species and the Descent of Man." In this textbook, he did a whole lot of comparative anatomical study in the anatomy of current men that lived on the planet around his time, which was around the 1700s, and men who lived on this planet as at 300 years before the 1700s. He made a remarkable discovery and what was found out was that the appendix, the appendix is the terminal part of the intestine, the large intestine, the terminal part of the large intestine. You find the appendix. It's in all of us. Currently, it's like a rudimentary organ, like it plays no role in our life. But as at 300 years ago, like thousands of years before now, the appendix in men was discovered to be around, I think, 30 to 45 cm in length. But the appendix in me and you today is around 9 to 15 cm. Now, what has happened? Our appendix has been reducing in size. Now, the appendix is part of the intestine that is required for the breakdown of um, vegetables or the vegetables. Animals like the herbivores, like the cows, the elephants, that feed solely on vegetables. They all have a lengthy appendix. They have appendix that is as long as 30 cm and above, because the appendix is required for the breakdown of some of these complex carbohydrates found in these natural occurring vegetables. But because
Right.
men, human beings, we've switched our diets over the years, we've moved from, exclusive vegetarianism, we've become omnivores. We eat basically anything we see. You know,
Mm-hmm.
most of our diets these days are usually starch and mostly starch. Mostly they are usually acidic in nature. So
Mm-hmm.
the body adapts to our environment. Our body structure adapts to our lifestyle. So because we have changed our diets over the couple of years, you know
Mm-hmm.
our appendix has been reducing in size because we no longer feed exclusively on vegetables again. So the appendix
Mm-hmm.
is reducing in size. This is an example that goes to show of how our lifestyle can literally influence our body structures. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so this is one way. Then, another way, it's you get to see that, just as I was trying to say, that we are no longer natural to the earth because our bodies have changed the way we eat. Even the air we breathe in is polluted
Mm-hmm.
by, various hydrocarbons produced from machines, certain chemicals that are emitted, like chlorofluorocarbons, like they complain about the ozone layer being depleted by certain carbon compounds being emitted from certain machines from fossil fuel consumption. You see, this also affects the quality of air we are taking in, and all these also are going in to cause mutations in our cells and is affecting how the earth is recognizing us. See, our vibration is beginning to change from that of the earth, and because the earth no longer recognizes us as part of itself, that is why
Mm-hmm.
the defense line of the earth, microorganism, or in code germs, are able to inflict damages in us.
Mm-hmm.
So healing, like for us to really experience self-healing, we have to understand the way, our body works, the way the earth itself as a living thing works also, and how we are to ensure balance between our lifestyle and that of the earth. Like
Right.
the earth has a heart, just the same way the human being have a heart, and every organism have a heart where the electricity is produced, where blood is pumped through the body, and the heart beats at a certain frequency, and that frequency of the human heart is supposed to be or synchronize with that of the earth. If you measure the frequency of most of our heartbeats and compare it with that of the earth, you discover that it's no longer the same. And we know that everything is vibration. The
Mm-hmm.
fourth dimension is all about vibration. So when our vibration is no longer similar to that of the earth, we become foreign to it. So just the same way the body attacks foreign cells, when foreign cells enter our body, there are cells like the macrophages, white blood cells, neutrophils that are there to attack foreign cells, foreign tissues when they enter our body. So that is how also the earth also begin to attack us because our structures have been changed, our vibrations have been changed. So that is why we fall sick, the earth attacks us, we fall prey to various agents. So the ways now that we need to inculcate in order for us not to fall sick, or in order for us to live in balance, in utmost health, health with the planet, stems from one now is now awakening. You know, there
Mm-hmm.
has to be this radical conscious awakening of the self.
Mm-hmm.
The individual has to recognize itself. When
Right.
it recognizes itself, it now begins to consciously change what it feeds on, what you take in, the kind of food it takes in. You can't just, if maybe you are waking today and you begin to realize that, oh, by default we are supposed to be vegetarians. You don't just switch over and say, okay, I'm becoming a vegetarian overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time,
It
process,
does.
Yeah, so it took time for us
Mhm.
to get to this level. So going
Exactly.
back to the default natural state is going to take us time also.
Right.
So that's why it's a process. You have to trust the process, the
Right.
gradual
And
process
that's
of
what
coming back.
we're,
You know.
we're
So that is
paving
where
the way
this
for our children,
ex-
you know.
exactly. So this
And
is where the self work comes in. You have to
wait a minute.
work on
And
yourself.
Dr. Carol, I have to ask you something else.
Yeah,
Speaking on vibration.
yeah,
Today I was talking to a young man and I said to him that, because I always hear people say, you have to vibrate higher. And I'm like, no, that has to be balanced even.
mm,
Because if your body is vibrating too high, it's something going on inside of you, like stress or whatever the case may be. It's not supposed to be, because that's chaotic, you know.
sure,
And that's why we use the breathing techniques to bring everything down and back in
exactly,
balance and in place.
exactly.
So a lot of people are out here, because they're waking up and they're, finding out about vibration and stuff like that, but they're not doing all the research. And then they're
Exactly.
not, I believe they're not really paying attention to even their own bodies, because I
Mm,
discovered that because I wasn't telling people vibrate higher. I just know I was like listening to my body, and I would, like, when I would go
mm,
and I that vibration, and I would feel the vibration in me, and then my body would tune in to that vibration. I was
mm,
like, wait, it's calming my body down. Even the
yeah,
deep breathing, it calms it
yes.
down. So I'm like, okay, well, we're not supposed to be vibrating too high. And I noticed that my body vibrates too high when I eat too much, like you said, of acidic things, foods, and even you have to watch some fruits and vegetables are high in acid.
Sure,
Strawberries, grapes,
sure,
so you still gotta be mindful of everything that we're putting in our bodies, you
sure.
know. Um, but it like you said, I thank God, for people like you that you're, taking the time to really study. And I'm sure it's taken, years to become a doctor. That doesn't just happen overnight. As a matter of fact, did you know that's what you wanted to do? That you wanted, well, you did say that in the beginning. You wanted, to find a better way. You said we have to find out about who we really are. Um,
Yeah,
I'll tell you,
yeah.
it would be so nice because you watch a movie and it's they travel across the continent and they find a book and that book leads to another book and we can discover. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it be nice if it was
yeah.
just that simple? But it's still, I still enjoy discovering, and
Mm,
just like I have this book, and I'm gonna tell you, I've had this book for maybe, I'm gonna say 2 years. It's called
yeah,
Metu,
okay.
and I'm still only 100 pages in because I keep reading those 100 pages because it's not something that I can just read like a novel, or it's
Mm,
just like with the Bible. It took me years to go through that and study and break stuff down, and I had out a concordance, a dictionary, and I had people I
mm,
could call if I didn't understand something. So I've found out that there's that, reading the Metut Netter, that there is um, 10 stages, and
mm,
it starts from 10 and it goes up to one.
mm,
And a lot of people, I've I've heard, not everybody, because I haven't heard everyone's teachings, but I've heard several people,
mm,
they believe that Haru, Hit Haru, and things of that
yeah,
nature, that they're different gods, when it's
yeah,
actually the attributes of God. You know, so it's something. That's what I'm saying. Just exploring and learning. I'm excited about it, but I'll be glad when there's a bigger community where we
mm,
can really, be taught and teach and express what
mm.
we've learned, without someone just saying, no, this is it, and that's what you have to believe,
Yeah,
where you can really
yeah.
come together and we can teach and learn from one another,
Mm. You know,
because,
yeah, go on. I'll just go on. When you finish, I'll say something.
no, go ahead, please.
Okay. You know, sorry, I have to take us back. You said something about healers. Healers disappearing from the earth.
Hmm.
With the advent of big pharmaceutical companies taking over. Uh,
Hmm.
I have come to see. When it comes to healing, I try to classify healing. There is natural healing and there is artificial healing.
Hmm.
Natural healing, which involves good thing you make reference to the Bible. Um, in the Bible, it talks about laying of hands to heal.
Hmm.
You know, laying of hands to heal. It's not just something that is intrinsic to Christianity. The Bible, just as you said, is universal. It imbibes or embodies universal principles of life which are also found in other scriptures,
Hmm.
scriptures. Now, what happens in natural healing? Like someone is sick and the person comes to me and all I have to do is lay my hands on that person and they regain their state of health, state of balance.
Hmm.
See, what that basically involves is involve using of the chi energy, your
Hmm.
own electromotive force, we are made up of electrons at the fundamental level. We are vibrating, and when electrons are vibrating, they give off energy. That is why our energies are magnetic and electric at the same time. Electromagnetic flux, which forms the aura that surrounds every human being.
Hmm.
So, with practice over time, we are able to channel this electromagnetic force, our aura, into others to use that same energy to heal. It can be used for healing, it can be used for combat, it can be used for basically anything. But you
Hmm.
see, a human being is a very wonderful creature on that, in the sense that we
Hmm.
have abilities, just the same way we have physical abilities, we have psychic abilities like clairvoyance, telepathy, psychometry, telekinesis. You know, these are
Hmm.
not special traits that are being taught or shown to us in Marvel or in Hollywood movies.
Right.
It's just if you look before this time, uh, uh, in ancient Egypt and in Babylon and Sumeria and
Hmm.
Persia, there were healing schools that existed. In Egypt, some of these healing schools were known as the Essene. There are even documents, though I'm not sure about it. History has been messed up with a whole lot, so we don't even know what is correct, except that which we receive via the Akashic records. Though
Hmm.
there are literatures that portrays that Jesus the Christ or the Samaritan guy who achieved Christ consciousness that
Hmm.
is being portrayed in the gospel. Uh, he actually said there was a time he went to Essene because if you follow the story of the child Jesus, there was a time when Herod wanted to kill him when the prophecy came that to Herod and he sent soldiers to kill him. The
Hmm.
parents, Joseph and Mary, had to take him to Egypt.
Hmm.
The Bible didn't really say much of what happened in Egypt. But there are
Exactly.
documents that have gone to show that while he was in Egypt, he began attending the Essene, the schools
Hmm.
called the Essene, the therapeutic healing schools that were established by the Egyptian mystic schools. The
Hmm.
Egyptians were advanced in the mysteries, of life. They had these mystical schools that were invented by, it was started by, I think, Pharaoh Tutmos III, or I think it was Akhenaton. He is recorded in history as the first individual to have achieved self-consciousness,
Hmm.
awareness of self and the importance. So he also wrote a whole lot about self-healing and in some of these uh, mystic schools he built around Egypt then. A special class of healers were also created. These were men and women who have devoted themselves into studying of the mysteries of life, like the principles of nature, the laws of
Mhm.
matter, you know. So over time, these individuals have also begun to develop themselves, develop
Mhm.
these psychic abilities that they have, and they were able to channel this chi energy, and they were able to also teach other people how to do it. So it was
Mhm.
also documented that this was at this time when Jesus went to some of those schools. This was where he learned the art of healing, laying of hands. And when he came
Mhm.
back to Israel, he was able to lay hands on the sick. He healed the sick just by laying hands on them and all those stuff. All like
Mhm.
we know the Bible. It's it's an astro theological book. Most of this it's a story. But these stories are
Mhm.
meant to teach natural happenings. It's
Mhm.
personification to personify natural happenings so that the layman can have an idea of the principle. But we have seen that that's a problem with religion. People believe the stories more than the principle that is supposed to be passed across. So
Right.
I'm just bringing this in just to like show that this information is out there, but sometimes we are not able to process it because it's out there in bits and bits. So these therapeutic schools taught individuals then, the so-called healers, how to heal using the chi, the natural energy that flows in us. So
Mhm.
over time, these big pharmaceutical companies had to come in and they start selling drugs. That is why, not like these pharmaceutical companies do not heal, because of course the physical medications we take, they are simply chemicals, chemicals, either a chemical that is lacking in the body or a chemical that has to go into the body to kill a particular cell or a particular organism, maybe, or you see in the chemotherapy or
Mhm.
antibiotics, anti-infective agents, or modulator agents, or maybe vitamins or
Mhm.
minerals that have to replace something, you see. So one thing we've seen with these big pharmaceutical companies, the kind of medications they produce, these medications have, just as you rightly said, they have side effects, they have deleterious effects on other structures in the body. Imagine taking chemo and you have to kill other cells. Even taking antibacterial, you predispose yourself to so many other conditions. You destroy
Mhm.
the natural balance, within us. These so-called, there are bacteria in our body, bacteria in our skin that live in harmony with us. Bacteria
Exactly.
in our guts, bacteria, viruses, they are within and without us. So we live
Mhm.
in balance with them, But when we even take some excess of all these antibacterial, antivirus, we tend to tip the balance and we put ourselves in more danger. So you
Mhm.
see, in other most times, people believe that the Western, this sorry, natural form of healing doesn't work. Like
Mhm.
if you're having a fever, temperature of say 40 degrees centigrade, and I say I want to come and lay my hands on you to heal you,
Mhm.
most times you may not get a relief because one, your body is not in a state of nature. Your body is not in its natural state. So most times, if I come and say I want to lay my hands on you, because it has to be a kind of a resonance, you have to be pure for my energy to be able to heal you, to be able to make that fever um, resolve itself. So that is why sometimes we feel the natural form of healing does not work, but it's there, it work. It's usually more of a self thing. Also, the individual have to be in a receptive state, in a vibratory state that is receptive to receive this
Right.
energy that will come in to heal the individual. But you see, because of the kind of life we're living, the Luciferian system in quotes, that's the illusion of the world, the way we
Mhm.
live. We're not really conscious about how we live, breathing. There's so much information out there. We are not being told the truth.
Right.
Information, like I said, the mind, it's vital. We talk about breathing. There's so much we can do with breathing. There's so
Mhm.
much we can use breathing to control ourselves. And
Right.
We don't even, nobody teaches us how to breathe. There is a way we
Exactly.
should breathe. It's not just, there's a default autonomic way of breathing, but we
Hmm.
discover that there are breathing exercises that can be done, how you can
Hmm.
channel even the air you breathe, channel it into various cells, control how much consciously, how much the blood picks up the oxygen and how it goes into various part of the body. Just as you said, with breathing, you're able to calm your vibration. You know, you can actually regulate. And there's another interesting thing we found out that even with breathing, you can regulate your body's metabolism, how your body consume energy. You know, Using
Yes.
special breathing technique, you can be able
Mhm.
to one.
Oh wait, the screen froze. Okay, wait, you're spinning. Hold on. Caro, it's spinning. Just hold a sec. Hopefully you'll come back in. Oh. Okay, there you are. Caro, you were spinning, Dr. Caro.
Yeah, yeah. So I was saying, if you're able to lower your metabolic rate, you
Hmm.
seem to be able to live longer because if you're burning very fast, just imagine burning, 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 like you burn out your life very fast. But if you're able to slow down your body's metabolic rate, you tend to live longer, healthier.
Got you. Oh, wait.
I'm here. Hello,
Okay. Okay.
network.
Um, exactly. So that um, I believe that uh, more and more people are coming to a place where they're, walking away from meat. Um,
Mm,
you know, it like you said, it doesn't. Some people they can do it overnight and they're done with it. Like
mm,
myself, I stop eating meat, but every so often, like maybe once a year, I'll get a
yeah,
taste for a hamburger. You know what I mean? Stuff like
yeah,
that. But
yeah,
I'm, mindful because some of the items that they make that are meatless
yeah.
are not good for us because
Mm,
I ate a meatless burger and oh my God, it rumbled my tummy, you know. So I'm like, okay, well, that is not, the best thing,
mm,
either. So now I have to condition my mind that it
yeah,
is okay not to have meat at all.
mm,
You know, that's, and I believe it can be done because I can do anything because
yeah.
I have the essence of God dwelling in me, you
Of
know.
course, the will, of course.
Yes. So, um, I'll tell you, I'm really glad you came on the show because it's nice to speak with someone
Yeah,
who knows the things that you
glad to
know,
be here. Yeah,
and hopefully we can continue to communicate
of
because
course.
I want to know stuff. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but in my wanting to know stuff, I will definitely call you during the daytime for you, so
Of
you
course.
can.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do thank you for staying up and having
yeah.
this conversation with me because
I'm
I said
glad
it would
I
only
did.
be for like maybe a half an hour, but I couldn't say, "Oh no, stop talking," because it's been about an
Yeah,
hour,
yeah, yeah.
So I thank you for that, for giving your time,
Thank you
your
too.
knowledge,
Yeah,
your truth, um,
yeah.
and not only that, dedicating your life
Mm,
to learning about holistic healing. That in itself is, a blessing. So I
true.
pray that you continue to do so and continue to
Yeah,
share with the world, because
of
this is
course.
not the last time I'm going to ask
Not
you
at
on
all.
this. I must
Yeah,
surely bring you back again.
of course.
We're
I'll
going to
be
have to
glad
give
to
it
come.
time.
Of
I'm going to have to I'm going to have to make some kind of sacrifice so I can get you on, during the day,
Okay.
if sort of you're comfortable and whatnot.
Yeah.
Also, um, so please, would you leave the people with some words of encouragement before you leave?
Um, what I want to say at this point is that we are more powerful than we know. We are very powerful, infinite beings. Uh, we just need to discover more of who we are, and we can only do this by studying. Information. We have to seek out information of who we are. You know, discover more information about ourselves, so we are able to live out our potential. So we should always strive for knowledge. We should always strive to be better. We should always strive to know, to realize who we are. When we realize who we are, it's an amazing journey. Life becomes beautiful. Death becomes an amazing event. So
Right,
it's all
right.
about self-discovery and self-discipline, self-knowledge.
Yeah. And that is a wonderful, beautiful path to be on.
Yeah, yeah,
So thank you again.
yeah. Thank you, Lavina.
You're very welcome, Dr. Caro. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Um, you can hit the X on the screen, and
Okay.
like I said, I will be visiting you in your inbox so I can get some
Yeah.
more information because I have more questions about stuff.
Okay.
So I'm glad we
That's
got to connect.
Of course, of course. Me too. Stay well.
Thank you.
Peace.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. For this has been Just Talk to Me. Lavina, Poetic, Empress, coming at you. That was Dr. Caro. And I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to speaking with him again. And thank you guys for joining. Please join me again next Tuesday evening. And I wish I didn't look at my schedule, so I cannot tell you who's coming on, but I will post, a flyer to let you know who's coming on. So please join us again next week for Just Talk to Me. Lavina, Poetic, Empress, coming at you with you. Thank you. God bless you. Good night.